Hi guys, today is the 20th of February 2019 at 7 minutes past 11 in the evening over here in the UK, and the first thing that I want to say is thank the Heavenly Father that we have made it to this date, because there were a lot of signs that we might not have, but we have. But that doesn't mean that our watch overall ends. It just means that I won't be using the iPad Go-To video very much in terms of interpreting dates. However, if events unfold in the real world that I think are associated with the video, I will point them out, which is one of the things that I'm going to do today. So Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are set to have their baby soon. They announced their pregnancy in October last year, and I think they announced it after the first trimester, because that's pretty much, I don't know if a lot of women do it, but the royal family definitely do, just in case there's complications during the first trimester and they lose the baby. That way they haven't announced it and then, have to go through this whole public, I was going to say embarrassment, but it's not really embarrassment. It's like just go through the public exposure. But I think that Prince Harry is part of the Antichrist system. I don't think he's the Antichrist itself, although it could be, but I don't think he is. I think he's part of the system, though, that brings in the Antichrist. And I think that when the baby is born, there's going to be some significant geological events. Maybe some volcanic eruptions, maybe a tsunami. I just think the volcanic eruptions are associated with birth and birth pains, and I think the tsunamis are associated with the waters breaking. Obviously, that's all a connection to Revelation 12:15, where we have the dragon serpent thrown down to earth and cast in the waters after the woman, which the earth then opens up to swallow, and that's a reference to an earthquake. But I found it interesting that today at the Brit Awards 2019, Jay-Z and Beyonce received an award for their music video called Ape Shit. Excuse the language. That's the name of the video. But in the background, you can see Meghan Markle wearing a crown. Do you see it right there? In the actual music video, they used Mona Lisa, but when they were collecting this award, they didn't turn up at the O2 Arena, which is where the Brit Awards were hosted, and you guys can look back in a couple of my videos to see what I've talked about in terms of the O2 Arena, how that represents another birthing ritual. She's wearing the crown. The only way Meghan Markle can be wearing the crown is if something has happened to the royal family. That may or may not include Prince Harry. I don't think it includes him. I think he'll be part of the surviving members of the royal family. But I have talked about an event happening in the UK, biological or chemical, taking out the royal family and leaving Prince Harry as the one in charge. And I think this may be a throwback to that, because Beyonce and Jay-Z, they're clearly the leading occultists of the media industry. You can see a lot of satanic symbolism in their music videos and hear it in the songs and the lyrics that they use in their songs. So them having such a focus on Meghan Markle and Meghan Markle wearing the crown especially is interesting to me and disturbing, because it suggests that there's going to be a rapid change in the royal family, potentially putting Meghan Markle as, I wouldn't say queen, because she couldn't be the queen, but she could certainly be, well, yeah, she could be the queen. If the king, she could be the queen. So, keeping an eye on Prince Harry and this birth. As I said, they announced in October. I think that was after the first trimester. So their baby should be due anytime now. Any day now, it should be coming up. Separately, but not unconnected, the Vatican is having their first summit on child sexual abuse. This is very significant. They are going to be having 190 Catholic leaders, that's every senior bishop from all over the world, in one place, the Catholic Church, the Vatican. Now, we know that in order for the Antichrist system to come about, the church has to be destroyed. The other thought on that is, we know that, I can't remember, was it Henry Piper or something, whatever his name is, I can't remember, but we know that the start of World War III has to kind of kick off between Christians and Muslims. Destroying the Vatican Church would do that. Especially if it was blamed on, a Muslim nation. It would definitely pit the religions against one another. Now, while that is all happening, Stromboli and Mount Etna are erupting away. Now, this is Stromboli down here. The images of Stromboli have been unreliable, to say the least, over the last couple of days. Sometimes we have images, sometimes we don't, sometimes it's just a black screen, sometimes it's like it's got dirt all over it. I don't know what's going on with the Stromboli live cams, but I'm keeping an eye on them because at the moment I have an image which I can see where the volcano is erupting. As I said, it is in erupt status, the same as Mount Etna, and it just brings to mind this scene, the LC scene, which is where we have the volcano on the apple erupting next to a foot, which is similar to the shape of Italy. Italy shaped like a boot. We have an apple next to that, and there's the whole reference with stromboli and how that's a dessert generally made from apples, and you know how that could be double layered as the volcano. Lots of different meanings in there, but it's significant because Stromboli is not that far from the Vatican. With an ordinary tsunami, say one that was caused by an earthquake, a general medium-sized earthquake, if it was to cause a tsunami, they generally travel around 6 miles inland. But a mega tsunami, which Stromboli or Mount Etna could generate with this land collapse, can travel up to 20 miles inland. The Vatican is 14 miles inland, so it's within the 20-mile range. And it does bring me to, well, one is this scene here. We have a reference to this whole scene. People can probably see it already. If you can't, if it's your first time watching the video, like many of us watching the video first time, we just see like, oh, it's like a mountain with a lighthouse on it. But when you actually look closer, or if you're told, you can then see a man and a woman combined, hermaphrodite, lying on the back and lying on the front. So this is the back side with, that's the bum area, the leg comes down here, that's the back of the shoulder and the arm goes around, and then you've got the front side. So this is an erect penis here, leg up, bent, and coming down. So you can probably see that now. So if this is the penis here, then we have like an opening here, and we're guessing if it's a combination between a man and a woman, then we have an erect penis, so that must be the vagina. It's a birthing ritual again. But as we move closer, you'll see on top of it is a cross, a reference to the church. And I've noticed as well, I pointed out before, I'm not going to draw all the lines because it's long, but facing this way, facing this direction, is a medieval helmet. So you should be able to see it, all these lines and stuff. It's like the old chainmail stuff that they used to wear. And this is the neck guard, this is the open visor part here, and then it comes around to the top of the helmet and we've got a little cross on top. So Crusader is essentially what we're talking about. Rome is where we're going with that. And if we've got an erect penis, child sexual abuse conference going on, we've got a reference to the cross on top, church, the Vatican, chainmail, and a crusader, that's Rome, the Roman Empire. So I think that the purpose of the tsunami in the Mediterranean, as well as other things that it may be set to accomplish, is to destroy the Catholic Church, to destroy the Vatican. And I think that's what we see again at the end of the video, where the Antichrist has come out, and I think the Antichrist coming out has connections with the birth of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's child. So that's why I say when that child is born, I think there's going to be volcanic eruptions and tsunamis, and that child could be born any time now because it's due. Here we have the church being destroyed. Clearly it's being destroyed by a wave. Now I think what they've done is they've overlaid 2 tsunami scenarios in the same scene. So at the front you can see that all these little bits here, they're all illuminated. They're slightly lighter blue than the background. And you can see here it's all illuminated, it's all lighter shading. So I think this part here, all this part of the front, is part of one scene which is talking about the destruction of the church, the destruction of the Vatican by tsunami. In the background, the second reference to the tsunami that we see here is in connection with these buildings, skyscrapers and stuff like that. Obviously that could be many different cities across the world, but we think it's New York. It's pretty clear that New York is referenced throughout this video. The Big Apple is a reference to New York. So where we have the Big Apple and the volcano, it seems as if the tsunami scenario in the background is associated with La Cumbre Vieja. So where this one for Rome is associated with Stromboli or Mount Etna or both, the one in the background appears to be associated with La Cumbre Vieja, or possibly the Poseidon drone. That's interesting because Russia has just kind of released a video showing the Poseidon drone being tested. They say it's ready for deployment this before spring, which is pretty much now. We're coming up to spring, aren't we? It's not that, it's maybe a couple of weeks away. So if it's before spring, they plan to deploy it, then most likely it's already deployed. And it's important because Russia recently threatened the United States over the United States placing missiles in Europe, which they say is a threat to Russia's national security. And if the United States continues with those plans, they will have to respond, which are, which I find very interesting. Respond how? We don't know, but I'm pretty sure if it came down to it, we would see. Now, all of that, all the bits I just talked about in terms of the church being destroyed by tsunami and stuff like that, it all has a reference to the Revelation 12, the Revelation 12 sign, the Revelation 12 chapter, the entire chapter, but especially when you get down to Revelation 12 onwards. In particular, I'm interested around Revelation 15 because this is where we get the tsunami talk. The serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that she might be carried away, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed the flood. We interpret that as a tsunami and an earthquake. The earth opening is an earthquake, the waters being spewed forward is a tsunami. Those two events go hand in hand with each other, so it's not out of the ordinary to put them together. But then you get into the biblical interpretations where you get the serpent casting the water out of the mouth, and when you go back to the end scene here, it's clear that they've included a serpent in the tsunami wave. So you can see they shaded it green where everything else is a blue or a white. This is clearly green with reds and yellows. So it gives you the depiction of a reptile-like creature. So it could be a snake, it could be a serpent, which is pretty much a snake, or it could be a dragon. Either of those references is biblical, and putting it in the tsunami wave just tells you it's a reference to Revelation 12, the destruction of the church, spewing the waters after the woman, and at some point there's going to be an earthquake involved. Now, in association with the earthquake analogy, I've looked at the regions potentially involved in this whole game that they're trying to play. And one of the scenes that I struggled with for a long time, and hardly ever talked about because I struggled with it so much, was the scene where we have the African child, and we appear to be on the continent of Africa. Now, I've already got a reference to Egypt, which is also on the continent of Africa, but this isn't Egypt, this is somewhere else. So I was trying to figure out, where is this? If this is talking about a region, where is it? So I started looking for clues, and one of the clues I took was the skull and crossbones. Now, skull and crossbones obviously relates to the Skull and Crossbones Society, but it is also a reference to a pirate flag. And if you put Africa and pirates in the same sentence, most of us will come up with one country, Somalia. Now, when I thought of that and I went back, I looked and I said, hold on, where are we going? Yes, I looked and I said, yes, that is Somalia. We're talking about Somalia here. So in the background, you can see the water is high. They're not on ground level. They appear to be up in mountains. So they've gone to higher ground, and the tsunamis come in. But all these rocks around them, if this was a mountain range, then all these rocks have been fractured, and that just puts in my mind an earthquake, a massive earthquake that's caused these rocks to fracture and brought in this massive tsunami or this massive flood into Somalia's region. Now, Somalia is just here, just off the east coast of Africa. That puts the tsunami in the Indian Ocean, which just started clicking a whole bunch of things for me, because the Indian Ocean, 2004, Boxing Day tsunami, Indonesia. Now, I've talked about earthquake references in association with both Australia, Oz, and New Zealand, NZ. I get the Oz from the chart in the beginning of the iPad Go 2 video. The alphabet, the O and the Z are tilted, so that gives a reference to shaking. Shaking gives you a reference to earthquake. The O and Z, Oz, gives you a reference to Australia, Aussies. But again, the N part could be taken in two ways. It could be an N or a Z, where O, if you flip it all the way around, it just remains an O. the Z could change to an N, so you have a reference to N and Z, which could be taken as New Zealand, Australia. You can see how close they are together, so it's not like you're making a really huge leap to connect those two countries together. And the plates that kind of go between them, you've got the Pacific plate, the Australian plate, and the Indian plate. Now, there could be some sort of build-up of tension there, similar to 2004, at least that's what we were told, and it could result in another mega thrust earthquake, which would result in a tsunami. If a tsunami happened in this region, Australia, Oz, would be affected, New Zealand, NZ, would be affected. We come up here to India. India is also in the video, and again is overlaid with an earthquake imagery. In this, I hope I haven't gone too far, I'll go to the next scene. Yes, in this scene here, you saw the stamp there and how the screen kind of shook. That is an earthquake reference. And on the ground, just where the character is stamping, is the number 9. You can see it just here. That gives me a reference to a magnitude 9 earthquake. And because the character is wearing a Shiva mask, which gives you a reference to India, it puts you in the Indian Ocean region. So you have a reference to Oz, NZ, India. Then we get over here, and we appear to have a reference to, well, not a reference, but the the Strait of Hormuz, sorry, is right here where this little bend goes in. And we've talked about the Strait of Hormuz and Iran coming out and blocking it at the same time there's a tsunami. And that reference again is in the iPad Go 2 video with Osama bin Laden on the ship doing this hand raising motion, which puts you in frame of a tsunami. Now, I talked about the Muslim practice of washing before prayer, and this is one of the actions that is taken when washing the face, bringing the water up and washing over the face. Now, that is pretty much tells you everything. Water over the face is a tsunami, and that appears to be happening in the Strait of Hormuz region, while we also have a representation of Pakistan. And I'm not even going to go into it, but you know, Iran, Pakistan having issues over the suicide bombing that took place in Iran, so there's potential for conflicts to arise there. India is also involved in that dispute, so again, you've got all these different world powers potentially ready to go against each other. But either way, we've got an earthquake reference with the O and Z tilted, which could reference Australia or New Zealand or both. We've got the stamping foot of the blue character who's wearing the Shiva mask, which gives us a reference to India. We've got the wave washing motion from Osama bin Laden character, who has a representation of Pakistan and Iran. They're right next to each other. And then we come down to Somalia, where we have the African child, the skull and crossbones reference. I think I got rid of it now, see it. The skull and crossbones reference, which is a reference to piracy, and that puts you in Somalia. So all of those references, in a nutshell, telling you about a massive earthquake in the Indian Ocean, followed by a tsunami that will affect all the countries in the region. And then you have to think about the tsunami that's going to be happening over here with Stromboli and or Mount Etna in association with Italy, Rome, the Vatican, and the destruction of the church. And then you get over to La Cumbre Vieja. Now, I think this one's still going to be used, but it could be that they just use Poseidon, as I said. But if they do use it, then it's another volcanic eruption, landslide, tsunami scenario, which could affect the UK and the east coast of the United States, in particular New York. I say in particular because New York and Florida are the two states out of all the states along the east coast that have the lowest coastline. So if any tsunami was to come in, those two states would be the most affected on the east coast, particularly Florida. It could, if it was a mega tsunami, I don't think there's anywhere in Florida that you would be safe from it. Whereas in New York, you'd at least be able to get 20 miles inland or something like that, and potentially be safe. Wall Street pops up, which is interesting because that's the next thing I want to talk about: the financial capitals. So the destruction of the crown, in terms of the UK and the Queen and the royal family. Obviously, I've referenced showing you Meghan Markle wearing the crown, so there seems to be some sort of subliminal messaging reference in that sense. The destruction, also it's the church, the destruction of the church, the Vatican. They're going to be having their meeting. It's not just tomorrow; they'll have it from tomorrow up until the 24th. So there's that time frame. Interesting numbers for us: 21, 22, 23. Numbers we've taken from the Apple LC scene, just from having 21 inside the Apple, 22 reference from the V on Obama's forehead, and 23 in a psalm in association with Psalms 23. I'm not sure there was more I wanted to get to, just to kind of put in your mind this earthquake scenario in the Indian Ocean. Obviously, Indonesia was affected the last time in 2004, and this report came out today regarding 3 earthquakes in 24 hours in Indonesia. The area is geologically active anyway, but we are looking out for a 9+ earthquake resulting in a tsunami anytime soon. I really do feel quite strongly that will be connected with the birth of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's child, and that will bring about, or that will signal the time of the destruction of the crown, or the destruction of the royal family, putting a new royal family, the destruction of the church, and the destruction of 2 financial capitals, New York and London. I don't know when any of this is going to happen. There's significant numbers, as I said, 21, 22, 23. I'm interested particularly over the next couple of days between the 21st and the 24th, just because that is when the meeting between these senior bishops is going to be happening in Rome. And if they were going to destroy the Catholic Church, that would be an opportune time to do it while there's 190 Catholic leaders inside the church, pretty much wiping out all leadership. Obviously, that wouldn't destroy the religion itself, but it would cause problems, serious problems. And because all of that is happening while Stromboli and Mount Etna are erupting, I'm paying more attention to it, because obviously if something happens then and the tsunami is generated, then this church is destroyed, and other things that I've talked about in this video could happen. So I have my little points, my little signs that I watch out for, to push me on researching further if the need arises. And today, before I made this video, I was thinking, should I even make this video now? Should I just wait until tomorrow up to the 23rd to see if Mount Etna or Stromboli erupt in the way that we've been talking about, and cause a tsunami in that region? I'd be too late to warn people in that region, but at least if I saw something like that, I'd be prepared to make the video and say, you guys, look, this has happened. I think that there's a potential for this happening next, or this happening next. Keep your eyes open. But something just led me to make it now, just to say, you know what, there's a lot of signs, there's a lot of things adding up. I think the breakdown in terms of the Indian Ocean is significant. It does appear that all those countries, all those points have been indicated in some way, and they all seem to be indicating in one way or the other an earthquake tsunami scenario. So Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, keep an eye out for tsunamis and earthquakes. With all that said, you guys, I wanted to make the video short, but I'm guessing it's over 20 minutes now. Have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.